How many men did Saul take to fight against David, and how many men did David have? Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel. David had 600 men.
Okay, and so the point of that is not to remember the numbers, but the point of that is to recognize that of the 3,000 chosen men that Saul took, there's a lot more still at home. Right. So his army is far, far, far greater and mightier than anything that David and his little vagabonds could pull together, but it never has been about might, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the point of keeping in mind how uneven that is. Number 2?
Saul goes into the cave where David was hiding. What did David do while Saul was busy? I'll just answer that. He took a piece of Saul's robe.
Okay.
What did the men encourage him to do? Just kill Saul.
Okay, so they wanted him killed, and he just took a piece of his robe. Number 3?
Saul leaves the cave and David follows after him. David shows great respect even after all Saul has done. Why do you suppose he humbles himself to a crazy man? Because he respects Saul as his king. Saul was anointed of the Lord, and David, through the Lord's prophet Samuel, and David knows that, and he respects him as his king.
That's right.
Because he was anointed of the capital L.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Okay, number 4.
David explains to Saul that Saul is wrong to think David would hurt him. How does the piece cut from the robe show that? David would have had motive and opportunity to murder Saul, while Saul was completely defenseless, but he refrained.
Okay, very good. Number 5?
I was going to ask, how does Saul respond? He repents, sort of. Anyway, turns around, goes home. And does that surprise you? Yeah, given his bipolar personality. Must have cut him on a good day.
Okay. Yeah. And we're not through seeing that. We're going to get to see that another time. So he says, David, you're more righteous than me.
Right.
I mean, he flat out says it to David. And considering that he's been chasing frantically after him for such a long period of time, does it surprise you that he speaks truth like that?
Mm-hmm.
He's flipped back and forth before.
He has.
Yeah.
He has.
And he wasn't really sure if he'd had a real change of heart or if he was just scared.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it because he was so scared.
Okay.
It's hard to read.
So he's now safe because he's surrounded by his men, and David's over there just showing him. He realizes that he certainly was in danger earlier at the time when he was, when he was defenseless, and as Jane said, he could have killed him. But I just think that. I just think that Saul's reactions are always so bizarre that it is surprising to me that he behaves this way, but it shouldn't surprise us given how bizarre he continually acts. And what does that ultimately show us?
People are unpredictable.
People are unpredictable, but Saul is ever since the Spirit of the Lord has left Saul, we've seen this in him. He has had he hasn't had any focus on ruling the kingdom. The people stopped coming to him for issues. He made poor choices. He made poor decisions. He made rash promises that had he been forced to keep them, innocent people would have died. I mean, Paul...
He's out there on his own.
Huh?
He's out there
on his own doing it, isn't he? And so ever since the Spirit of the Lord has left him, we've seen that personality. All right, number 6.
Finally, Saul acknowledges that David will one day be king. And what does he want David to promise when that happens? Verse 21 says, "Swear now to me, by the Lord, that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not destroy my name from my father's house."
Okay, so not to kill the descendants, and we've discussed it a couple of times. Why would he be worried about that?
Because that's what they did.
That was a custom.
Because that was the custom of the time, that when a new family came to the throne, the descendants of all of the rest of them would be slaughtered. And so he is asking that. Number 7.
Interestingly, David ends up making the same commitment with Saul as he did with Jonathan. What does this tell you about David's heart? That his heart was tender and honorable.
Good. Good. Anyone else
Yeah.
have?
I put that he had a godly heart.
Good.
Yeah, after God's own heart.
And what does David really, in these situations, and I'm bringing this up because we're going to see the opposite side of it coming up, but what does David really desire? He wants peace, right? He wanted peace with Jonathan, he wanted peace with Saul. He desires to have a peaceful relationship with them at this point. That was the longing of his heart. All right, let's look at the questions for chapter 25. Francie?
Number 1, we learn in verse 1 that Samuel dies. How old was he, and where is he buried? He was between 92 and 96, and he was buried at his home in Ramah.
That's right. And you have a picture in your packet that shows where they go and worship Samuel's tomb to this day. All right, number 2.
Our story in this chapter is about Nabal and Abigail. What does his name mean in Hebrew, and what was his occupation? Nabal means foolish. He was a sheep herder. He raised livestock.
Good. Okay, and well-to-do, right? Wealthy, it says. He had a lot of them. All right, number 3.
What do we learn early on about Abigail? She was a woman of of good understanding and beautiful appearance, and she had common sense.
Okay, good. Number 4.
David sends 10 men to Carmel to visit the household. Why? And why would he expect anything from Nabal? He needed food, and he knew that Nabal was wealthy, so he figured he'd easily share with him.
Okay, and why would he expect that Nabal would share with him?
Because he had taken care of his people, his sheep herders.
Okay. They had provided protection while the sheep herders were out there for all that period of time with their flocks. David and his men had provided protection, and he says, "We never took a sheep." Last week we discussed the previous week about how that would be a temptation when you're hungry, and that they never took anything that wasn't theirs. They protected the sheep herders and the flocks. And so the custom would have been to go when the shearing was going on and the money was coming in, and to expect that you would receive payment. He doesn't give him an amount and say, "This is what you owe us." He says, "Search your heart and give us what is fair, what we deserve." All right, number 5.
How did Nabal? Is it me?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. How did Nabal respond to David's men's request, and why was it so insulting? Let's see. How did Nabal respond to David's request? Well, he just said he wasn't going to do it. He didn't do it. He
Refused him.
refused him anything. And why was it so insulting? I didn't even put anything to answer this question, so I'm just going. It was insulting because what he had done for them.
Okay,
And I've got down there, he was a foolish man.
that's true.
That's very true.
That's true. So Nabal responds. What does he say when they ask for payment? He says,
He didn't know who he was. He acted
he
like he didn't know.
actually, yeah.
Who is he?
Who is this David? Why is he, in other words, why is he, who is he that I should give him food or water or anything? What did he call him? Son of Jesse. Remember, that's the kind of insulting term. In other words, you wouldn't say this general, any of it, the important slayer of Goliath, nothing. It's this son of Jesse.
And it was kind of an insult to his father, too, to Jesse.
Yeah.
Like, well, who's him?
Yeah,
Who's he
who
here?
are you? You guys are nothing. Why would I give you anything? So he's not stepping up and doing what would have been the respected custom of the time when he asked for that. And why was that so insulting?
They've risked their lives fighting off wild animals while the shearers are getting paid We're just running a razor over animals.
Yeah.
And they just did it.
Yeah.
Just did it because their heart was right. They did.
And so it was not only insulting to the job they had done, but it was insulting to David's name and his family name. like you're saying.
Plus David was well known in the land
Yes.
already at this time.
And we know that
The
because later
reputation.
on Abigail is going to know everything there is to know about him. And so we know for a truth that he certainly would have been well known at
He
this
knew
time.
who he was.
He knew who he was.
Yeah.
He knew who he was.
He was something about Jesse.
Yeah, he knew he was the son of Jesse.
Son of Jesse.
Yeah. He knew who he was, but he didn't want to have to pay anything for the services that David and his men had provided. All right, number 6.
When David's men return, how does David respond? Who does this remind you of? David said to his men, "Each of you gird on his sword." He acted with the impulsiveness of Saul, not counting the cost or consulting God for wisdom concerning his plans.
Perfect, yeah. Acting just like Saul, you would think that he would hold that temper in check. Yeah. All right, number 7.
Okay. Anyway, why do you suppose the servants went to Abigail with the problem? How did she handle it? Well, Abigail seemed to be the one with wisdom and common sense.
Yeah.
And Nabal, aside from being a fool, was drunk probably a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, not available.
Yeah.
Anyway. That's 7. Okay.
That's good. And how does she handle it when they come to her?
She takes provision, assembles provision, and goes to meet David
That's right.
and his men, and feed him quick.
And the word that's used there is she hastily did it. I mean, she knew time was of the essence, that if she didn't do this immediately, things were going to escalate out of control and there would be nothing she could do. Because
well,
what is...
night they were planning on coming and
Yeah.
taking everyone out by morning.
Right, and so she knows that there is time, and David, who is madder than a hornet, says what? I'm going to come and
Kill all the males.
kill every male in that
His household.
household, and so he's going to wipe them all out. So he's on the warpath. And she knows that she has very little time to make this happen. So she gathers together the provisions and takes it out. So number 8.
As she meets David on the road, Abigail makes several points. The Lord has held David back from bloodshed.
Yes.
David's enemies should be treated as if they were like Nabal.
Yes.
The Lord, excuse me, the Lord will make David's house an enduring house.
Yeah.
Because David fights the battles of the Lord. No evil has been found in David. David will one day be ruler of Israel. Can't read my own writing. And Lord will avenge this matter.
The Lord will avenge the matter. So she's got, not only did she make provision, but she's thought this out in her head. What it is, the important points of what it is that David needs to hear. The first one, the Lord has held David back from bloodshed. The other word that we talked about in the Hebrew actually means blood guilt. And so that would be this idea of not just bloodshed, but the bloodshed of an innocent person that did not deserve to die. And so the Lord held David back so that, because had he gone and killed every male in that household,
He would have killed some innocent people.
there would have been innocent people that had nothing to do with any of it.
Right.
Because other than Nabal, no one else really bears the guilt of what was done there. So, number 8.
9.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
No,
8.
8.
Oh, they're 2 8.
2 8s.
2 8.
Oh,
Mike
8B.
corrected it, so I'm reading 9.
So, how does David respond to this? He's thankful that the Lord kept him from bloodshed.
Okay. So he's very thankful, and what does he say to her?
I don't remember.
Blessed be the Lord God of Israel.
Okay. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel, because he has sent you to me this day. I love how David always
Thanks
blesses
God.
the Lord.
First.
He
Yeah.
always
Isn't it cool?
does. For anything that happens in his life, he first thanks the Lord for providing it or giving it to him or taking it away from him or whatever it is that happens. And that's what he does in this case. He tells her, "Blessed is the Lord God of Israel for sending you to me."
And then blessed are you.
Yeah, and then blessed are you. Right, it provides a
He
blessing on her.
repented right then.
All right, yeah, and David is quick at repenting, isn't
Yes,
he?
he
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Okay, now number 9.
Okay, when Abigail returns home, Nabal is drunk, and so she speaks to him the next morning. When she tells him what she has done, what happens? Well, he has a stroke and then later dies.
Okay, so it says he becomes like a stone. His heart became like a stone within him.
Could he
So
have had a heart attack, or what do you think?
I think he probably had some sort of paralyzing stroke, maybe a heart attack first,
Yeah.
or whatever. We know he didn't die right then, and so
I think his blood pressure went so high he had a stroke.
yeah,
When she died.
yeah, and whatever it is, he hung around for a
And
while.
maybe he knew that she kind of had the hots for him.
What makes you think she had the hots for David?
But the
Oh,
way
I
she
think it's very
goes,
good.
I think she did. I mean, I think she liked him and was trying to impress him, and
She knew he was tall, dark, and handsome.
yes, she did.
And much
I don't know
nicer than
I
who
don't
she-
know that David was tall, dark, and
Yeah,
handsome.
Those are redheads.
Saul was tall, dark, and handsome, but I don't know that
Don't you think
he was good looking.
No, he was
Don't
But
you
I don't
the
think that
scriptures kind of.
I
I
think
mean,
that was
she
her
went
motive.
with him to.
I don't think
When
I
started
don't
telling
think
him
that
all these
she
things?
I don't think that she was after David. She had a husband at home.
Right.
But he was mean.
But he was mean, but do you think she would have ever left him if she
Well, no,
No.
because they didn't do that.
Okay,
No.
so the point is, as a godly, righteous woman, she knew that was her the choice that had been made for her.
Yeah.
And so
Sorry.
so she
It's not you.
there we go. So she does the provision because she's saving her servants have come to her and said, we're all dead if something doesn't happen, and so she is saving her household. The fact that she's saving Nabal's skin, I think matters probably a little less to her than the fact that she's doing the right thing
For a lot
and
of people.
saving for a lot of people
Yeah.
and saving this household. We don't really know that she's ever met or seen David or had anything. We don't know. She knows about David, but whether or not she's ever met David or seen David, the scripture doesn't tell us that. So we just don't know.
Okay, well maybe I was wrong.
Between the lines.
Imagination.
During those 10
I think-
days,
I think
Too
she
many of
had
those
seen
romantic
him.
novels.
We know where the romantic is.
Well,
Yeah.
he had a stroke and waiting to die.
Can I go
all
back
right.
to the question in verse 38?
Yeah, go ahead.
It says
Interacting
that
with David and his men.
All right, here we go. Here's an answer.
Interesting, huh?
in verse 38 it says that the Lord struck Nabal.
Yes.
So
So whether
just recognizing
I think
that it was God's hand on him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It actually took him out.
Absolutely. And that takes us to number 10. Where are we at, Bonnie? Is it yours? Mm-hmm. Let's do number 10.
How does God finally avenge David in this situation, and what does that train David to understand, given his situation with Saul? Well, God intervenes and keeps David from taking matters into his own hands, and shows David that the Lord will take care of him and he will be the avenger. The battle is the Lord's.
Okay, so God, just exactly what you said, God avenges this situation because he goes in and 10 days later, after the stroke, God kills Nabal. Or, he dies at that time. And so David doesn't have to do anything. The whole situation is avenged. So as God is taking David through this training process, what lesson does David learn from that? And he probably already knows, but is reminded, is this whole situation with him and Saul, it's not David's to avenge, right?
God's.
God will take care of the situation. And so God is continually training. I kind of believe maybe that's why this interesting story is partially in here, is to show us that God, during all of this, is training David for lessons that will be learned down the road. And some of these lessons David learns very well, and some of these lessons David has to be taught over and over and over again, and he'll fail at a few of them. And so it's just an ongoing process that God is dealing with him. And then what happens to Abigail?
David proposes to her through his servants, and she will be a servant to his servants and becomes his wife.
Okay, so she becomes his his
So
wife.
Mary, you're right. We're talking. She was talking about the 10 days. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And the ball was not quite.
Yeah,
open.
yeah.
She goes, oh, I got that hottie.
Well, I'm just gonna say, if Jim goes in the hospital, I'm watching you like hawk. So, just saying.
Well, I just thought it was so interesting.